Hello, hello. Welcome everybody. My name is Bethany and I'm an education support specialist with Singer, and it's the second Tuesday of the month, so I'm back. We're back for another one. I feel like these just keep happening so fast, and I guess the months are flying by, but I'm going to give everybody a minute to jump on. We literally just hit the go button, so it takes a minute for everyone to get notified and join the party. If you're just hopping on, give us some hearts, throw us some love, and definitely let us know in the chat below. My question to you this time, I change it up every month. My question to you is, have you ever quilted before? Basic quilting, advanced quilting, never touched it, curious about it, want to learn more but haven't tried it. Let us know. I want to know kind of where you guys are at in your quilting experience, and then I'll share a little bit of mine. It's not much, but I'll share it with you. But let me know if you've ever quilted before. There's some hearts. We've got some people jumping on. Hi guys, welcome back to another Tuesday live. Curious about it? I'm curious about it too. For you guys jumping on, I just asked the question, if you've ever quilted, if you're a beginner quilter, if you are more advanced quilter, if you're curious about quilting but have never tried it, you've dabbled, any of the following. I'm just kind of curious. Yes, I've been quilting for years, but I'd still say I'm an intermediate. Well, that's awesome. I feel like quilting is one of those things that there's always new things coming to that, like, realm of sewing. I feel like it's its own realm, and new things to help change the way you quilt and different types of quilting, and there's always something to learn. Someone said they just started. Someone said yes, intermediate. Let's see what else we got. Learning now, just started in January. You guys start sometime. That's awesome. Beginner, curious. Okay, awesome. So y'all, my name is Bethany, just so you guys know. I'm an education support specialist for Singer, and this month's monthly project, so I create a project every month for you guys, do the full step-by-step instructions with pictures so you guys can follow along. Those were posted, let me rephrase that. The project of the month was posted last week. If you didn't see it, this is it. I'll scoot back. Let me scoot back. Whoop, there it is. And you can put the little ties on it and tie it up, or you can leave it flat like I did on this one. But this is the project of the month, and this is a beginner's quilt as you go block. So I feel like this is great for beginners. It's great for intermediate. I feel like we're going to get back to the basics of foundation quilting techniques. I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm not a quilter. I like projects that are fast, that are quick, that I can do and be like, wow, this is so cool, and then you want to do it again and again and again. For me, full-blown quilts, like big quilts and freehand quilting and all of that, is a little intimidating, and I know a lot of people feel that way. I truly appreciate the craft. There's a lot of technique, there's a lot of skill, there's a lot of patience involved in those projects, and that's just not my strength. I know that and I recognize it, but my mom is a quilter and has been for many, many years. I still have the quilts that she made. My son, gosh, he'll be 16 this summer, so I've had those quilts that she made for him when he was born, and they're those wonderful keepsake items, right? But my mom doesn't sew a lot of big quilts anymore. She really kind of does a lot of smaller things. And so that's what really kind of interested me into quilting. And that's kind of how I came up with this project for this month, because I'm definitely intrigued by quilting. I know I have a lot of sewing techniques that are used in quilting, but it's kind of a different approach to sewing these types of projects. And so we're going to start with the basics, and we can grow on this. We got to start with the foundation and get the right techniques down first, right? The good habits, and then we'll grow on that. So that's what this monthly project was intended to do. This is also a great project for scrap fabric. So this was all scraps that I had on hand. These were all scraps. that I had on hand because my mom passes her scraps down to me. So she used these in a quilt many, many years ago and still had some scraps left over. And so then I ended up with them, and now I'm making stuff with them. But I just think these are so cute. I feel like these are great for, like, for me, like this is something I would like pin up and hang on my wall. And I would have one for like every season or every holiday, because they are so fast to make. Like once you make one, you're going to be like, I need to make another one and another one and another one. I made this one and then I was like, let's make this one, you know, and it was like all in the same like half hour. So honestly, that took me longer to pick out the fabrics that I wanted to use than actually piecing it all together. But we're going to talk about the tips and the tools that you need to be able to piece them together and have a successful project like this one. But yeah, I think this is cute hanging. I think you can make it longer and make a cute little wall hanging. You can put this on your table, put some like candles or whatever on the centerpiece, super cute. If you do add, and in the instructions I include this, if you do add the little ties onto it, you can untie them and lay it flat, but you can tie them up and it kind of makes it like a little basket, kind of like a shallow bowl. And this is like a great catch-all. Like if you wanted to sit this in your sewing room next to your sewing machine, this is where your pins go and your feet and your all my clips, you know, and scissors so I don't lose it. It's all right there. But I also feel like this would be super cute like on your kitchen island or center of your table or coffee table with like some fruit in it, or like those like fake decorative balls things. I don't know. I'm not a decorator, so, but I just feel like this is adorable. I think this would also be cute if you had like jewelry you wanted to set out and made a smaller one. You could make a smaller one just for holding your jewelry that you wear on a regular basis. So yeah, I feel like these are super cute and you guys can do a lot of things with them. All right, let's see here. Now, if you're just jumping on, let me know where you're at in your quilting journey. If you're never done it, if you're curious, if you're beginner, intermediate, looks like we've got a pretty wide range here. Hey guys. Awesome. Okay, so let's dive into some of the things that we need to make this month's project. So when I come on to do these lives, they're always the second Tuesday of the month. So the first week we are going to launch our project of the month, and the second week I'm going to come on and give you some tips so you can have a successful project. And then the next 2 weeks you got to make it and tag us in it. We want to see those finished projects. So the key thing that you're going to need for this project is a 1/4 inch piecing foot. So if you haven't seen one before, this is what it looks like. It's little, it's more narrow and skinnier than a regular sewing foot. It's got these little red lines on it and a tiny little hole right there. Maybe if I point it towards the light, you guys can see better. And it's just gonna snap on to the machine like all of our other feet do. And this foot is so important because, in quilting, because 1/4 inch is the seam allowance for quilting. You want a very narrow seam allowance. Now this can be used, this foot can be used for other types of projects that have like really narrow seam allowances. This is also a great foot for top stitching, and I have one I'm going to show you. So last month in February, we did the 3-in-1 sewing organizer, and I love these. So I made like 3 of these at this point. But this is it. I'll skip back. And I did top stitching around my pin cushion and down my strap here. And again, that 1/4 inch piecing foot really helps you stay along the edge of your fabric. It's because it's just such a tiny hole right here. It has more weight right here in the middle. That is going to hold your fabric down and create a better straight stitch for you. Now this is a straight stitch foot. It is a straight stitch foot. That is the only stitch you're going to be using with this foot, okay? And the other thing is important to notice is because it's just that tiny little hole right here in the middle, you have to put your needle in the center position. So if you have a manual machine and you have a knob that you can adjust the needle position for left, center, and right, you have to make sure it's in the center. The machine we're going to be using today is the Quantum Stylus 9960, which I'll show you in a second, but we'll talk about the stitches that they have, and again, to make sure that your needle is in the center position, because if not, and you don't hand wheel it down to make sure, and you hit your foot on that foot control on the floor, and you just start sewing, that needle's gonna hit this metal and just break. And we've all been there, we've all done it, it's gonna happen. We get a little ahead of ourselves and go too fast, but I'm telling you now, so hopefully it sticks in your brain when you do go to do this project, that you make sure your needle is in the center position. Now in quilting, the standard straight stitch setting is going to be 2.5 millimeters or 3 millimeter length, stitch length. For quilting, we typically do something a little smaller, so 2 millimeters, just a little tighter stitch. We want a really tight seam. We're going to be pressing these seams out, and we want to make sure that it stays. Now in quilting, another thing to know is we don't usually backstitch. So I know I'm always like, don't forget to backstitch, don't forget to backstitch. Even in my notes and my tutorials that I write up for you, I'm like, don't forget to backstitch. You want to lock in your stitch. Well, that doesn't really apply for quilting, because when you're piecing all of these together, after you get these together, you're going to come along and sew 2 more pieces together here, and that is going to catch your threads and your stitches. So you don't need to backstitch. It's just going to create bulk in those seams, and they're not going to lay as flat. So make sure you just start and you just stitch all the way through, okay? And I'm going to show and demo this here in just a minute, but I like to kind of visually walk you through it. Another important thing to know is after you stitch your straight stitch, your 1/4 inch seam allowance, you're going to go to your iron and you're going to press your seam allowance to one side. And typically, when you can, you want to press your seam allowance to the darker fabric. So I'm going to press it towards the orange instead of the yellow, because if you press it towards the darker fabric, that seam allowance is less likely to show up on the right side of your fabric when you're done. If it was pressed the other way, you probably would see that seam allowance. So just keep that in mind. There's all these little nuances, right? But those are just some helpful little tips when you start building and on your quilt and piecing it together. When it comes to this project, you're not gonna really see any of that, but I just like to share some extra tips beyond what we're just gonna do here. So let's go on from there. I wanna show you a couple of other feet. So this is the standard 1/4 inch piecing foot. It can actually look a little different depending on the one that you have. So here's another one. It's a clear one. It's got the lines down the center, but it's got the lines on the sides as well. Now you're probably wondering, what are these red lines mean? Like, what do these marks mean on this foot? And that's really good to know. So this very first mark closest to the front of your foot, this very first one right here, that is exactly 1/4 inch from this line up to the needle hole. So from this line up to that needle hole is 1/4 inch, okay? So we've got 1/4 inch from this side to our needle, and we have 1/4 inch from this side to the needle, from the front to the needle. When this is helpful is when you're sewing in a square. And I have one that I did, so I'm just gonna show you, but I'll demonstrate it here in a little bit. But if you sew down one side, and then you want to pivot and have 1/4 inch seam down this side, your fabric, you're going to stop your fabric when your foot and your fabric gets to those first red dashes right there. So when your fabric lines up with those first red lines, you're going to stop sewing. You're going to put your needle in the down position. You're going to lift your foot, pivot your fabric, so not your foot, you'll pivot your fabric, and then you'll put your foot back down and you'll just keep sewing. It'll be lined up. So you have it even 1/4 inch all the way around. So let me scroll down. I think I missed some comments here. And I'm going to demonstrate all of this so that you guys can see it all. But yeah, so 1/4 inch foot is great for top stitching. Some other feet we're going to talk about today is the open toe foot, and I also have a clear, like, all-purpose or decorative foot as well. These are essential. One of these, preferably the open toe foot, is essential for finishing your project with that decorative stitch around the edge. This just adds a little decoration to it. I have like a mini, it's kind of hard to hold up this big thing, so I made a little mini corner so you guys can see this decorative stitch all the way around the edge. You cannot do a decorative stitch with your 1/4 inch piecing foot, so you will have to take this off when you're done and you're ready to do your final stitches, I chose this kind of like vine feather stitch, and you're going to want to use an open toe foot. This gives you great visibility of your stitches and your fabric and where it's going. It gives you a lot of width here for your needle to move around. It's not going to stay in the center position. It's going to kind of move all over with this stitch if you choose this one. And on the back of these open toe feet, you see that there's kind of like a groove right here. Can you see that? This allows your decorative stitch and your fabrics to feed right through that groove. And then these two sides are a little higher and they're like smooth, they're like little skis, and it just skis right over the fabric and it makes your decorative stitch go so much more smoothly. This clear foot has that same feature. It's just a little harder to see because it's all clear, but it's there. But we're going to use the open toe foot today. And then the last thing, and I wasn't sure if I was going to mention this today, but since we're using the Quantum 9960, I felt like I needed to. So I'm kind of throw another foot at you. This is the darning foot or free motion foot. This is compatible with the 9960. I believe it comes with the 9960. Don't quote me on that. It may be an accessory upgrade. But anyways, this right here is what will give you the ability to, if you want to quilt on this machine, and really do like the decorative kind of swirls and whatnot, free motion quilting, this is that foot. I'm not demonstrating that today. We may save that for another video because there's a lot more involved with this foot, and it just is, it's a free motion. You're going to be moving the fabric all over. It's not going straight through. Your feed dogs are down. There's a lot of things that get involved, so we'll have to save that for another day. But if you are more of a beginner or intermediate sewist in quilting, then you might want to play around with this foot, get some scraps and see how you do with it. It's really fun. You can do some really cool embroidery stuff with it. You can do some monogramming with it. And again, you can do some stipple quilting as well. So that's also really cool. And another way that you could take this project and really quilt it up and have that extra quilting look by doing that free motion. So I just wanted to mention that it's something that you can do on this machine with this foot. Okay, let's get to some demonstrations. Do I have any questions? Let's check real quick. I kind of go quickly, so I think we're good so far. Hey guys, look at everybody jumping in. You have the 9960 and you love it. That's awesome. I really love sewing on this one. What's the name of the foot? Which foot? I showed a bunch. We have a 1/4 inch piecing foot, which is clear. Let's see here. We have an open toe foot, which looks like this one. I have a clear decorative foot. It's not open toe because it does have a piece right there. And then this is the freehand or darning foot. Okay. All of these feet are available on Singer.com. I will tell you the darning foot is 20% off right now. The 1/4 inch foot and the open toe foot are both 25% off right now. And we're going to swing over to the 9960 sewing machine, which is the Quantum Stylus. And this machine is currently $100 off. Okay. Let's swing around. Let me zoom back up to the bottom. Where can I find an iron for quilting? Okay, I was going to mention this at the end, but since you just asked, we'll do that now. I brought this over with me. It's not plugged in, so don't worry. I'm touching it. It is not hot, okay? So this is the Singer Steamcraft Plus iron. It's in the mint color. And just so you guys know, this iron right now, just this iron right now on Singer.com is 25% off. And what I love about this iron is it is a good surface iron. It's really nice. Huge steam on this. Huge water tank, by the way. Like, you fill this guy up all the way to here and you can actually see how much water is in it. Like, I can see the water line right there. That's so nice. There's no dial to turn, so you can actually know what setting you get by you just hit this button right here, mode, and you just hit it until you get to the setting, the fabric setting or the heat setting that you want. And you can control the steam here of how much steam you want. But what I love about this iron, especially for quilting, and anybody who quilts knows how important, like, ironing is so important in piecing and getting good seams and sharp corners when you're quilting and piecing a quilt together. And this iron right here is great for that. So I have some irons that a little more rounded and bulky at the top, but this one comes to like a really nice sharp point, and you can really get in your seams and split your seams. You can press your seams, you can get in your corners. It's just really nice, and it gets really hot all the way to the tip, which is really nice. And it's 25% off in this mint green, which I love. It's nice when things look cute too, right? But yeah, this is my favorite iron. So, and it's very helpful with the quilting. So to answer your question, yes, that's why I brought it over here, because I wanted to talk about it, but I'm glad you brought it up. I knew it would come up at some point. Irons are so important with quilting. So, okay, let's go to the machine and we're gonna do a little demo, okay? So we're gonna swing you guys down. Bear with me while I get you in here. All right, let me see if I can get a little closer. There we go. Sorry, I can barely see what you guys see. Okay, so I don't have any foot on my machine right now. As I mentioned, our feet have this little bar and they just snap right on. They're just so easy. Just place it underneath. Of course, I'm a little wobbly today. Click, and it's good to go. You're gonna wanna make sure your thread is through that little hole. I've got my bobbin in place. We're ready to go. As I mentioned before, ironing your pieces together are very important. You know what? Let me show you something real quick before we get too far ahead. When you are prepping your material for quilting, it's important. We talked about the precision that's involved with quilting, but prepping your materials is really important. So even for this project, I really recommend getting a straight edge ruler. It doesn't have to be one this big, but get a straight edge, get a rotary cutter, and a self-healing cutting mat. It doesn't have to be self-healing, but a cutting mat to protect your surface. I have one that's like the whole length of my table in here, so I don't accidentally cut on my nice table. But having that straight edge is going to create a nice clean edge to your pieces, so when you line them up to sew, you're going to get a more accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance. So take the time to cut your pieces well. Use that rotary cutter, get used to using them, hold that straight edge, that ruler down next to it. It's gonna make a big difference. Something else we're gonna talk about is chain piecing, which is a type of like sewing a bunch of pieces together quickly. So typically when you're cutting materials for a quilt, you have a pattern that you're gonna go by. So for this project, here, I'll show you on this one. So for this project, you're gonna cut all your strips. Length isn't really that, I mean, you want to make sure it's going to cover the length of your project, but the width is really up to you. You just want to make sure you use a straight edge ruler and that they're straight, they're not cut crooked, so that your edges line up. So the width here on these pieces can be any width you want. So like for the birds, I wanted the birds to show up more because they're bigger, so I cut those pieces wider, but some of these other ones I cut smaller, and it creates some dimension. But you want to make sure they're straight edges so that they do line up and you can get a nice 1/4 inch seam. So we're going to work on that. And for this project, I'm not going to show it with this today, but this is that batting that we used. And on one side it's super soft. The other side's got a little rough texture to it. And that texture is an adhesive. So as you build onto your quilt block, the soft side is going to go onto the back piece here, and you're going to pin it down. But as you build and add these pieces on across your square, you're going to press them down with your iron, and that adhesive is going to heat up to the fabric, and it's going to hold it down. So when you put your next piece back on and you stitch, and then you just build upon it, okay? You just want to make sure you don't touch your iron to the adhesive side, like the rough side, because then it will get on the front of your iron, and no one wants sticky stuff on the front of their iron. That's no fun. All right, so let's go back to the machine, and we're gonna start sewing these together. And I'm gonna show you how this works. I hope you guys can see. Okay, so I've got my two pieces. I've got them right sides together. Got an orange and a yellow polka dot today. Just felt like spring. I am so ready for spring. Okay, and summer weather. right, so I'm going to put my foot down, and you can see my fabric is lined up with the right edge of this foot, this 1/4 inch piecing foot. This is exactly a 1/4 inch from the edge of the fabric to the needle, which will create a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down. Now, over here, I'm going to hope you guys can see this. There's a glare, so I'm going to kind of block it. Over here on the 9960, this is a computerized sewing machine. And they have some preset stitches here, which is very handy for like quick sewing. They've got zigzags and overlocks and buttonholes and straight stitches and all that fun stuff, right? Well, they've got 2 straight stitches at the top. This one is a left needle position. So obviously if I was to push that, and I'll show you right here, if I was to lower my foot, that needle's going to hit my foot because it's not in the center position. So we're going to raise it back up. We're going to hit the second straight stitch, which is the center needle. You see it shift over, and my needle goes right through that hole. You want to make sure that your first stitch you do with your hand wheel. Just use your hand wheel, make sure it clears. Better safe than sorry. You don't want to be breaking needles. That's no fun when you're starting a new project. So take your time on that, okay? The other setting we're going to adjust here on this stitch is we're going to go to our settings here, and instead of a 2.5, I'm going to hide that glare. Instead of a 2.5 millimeter length, I'm going to lower that just to 2. That's just kind of standard for quilting, so that's what I'm going to recommend for you guys. And we're going to go back, and now we're good to go. It does say that we want it like the all-purpose foot, but you can use other feet with a straight stitch, like our 1/4 inch foot. Okay, so now that I have you guys watching, I'm going to kind of get you here. There we go. And we're just going to sew. And remember, we're not back stitching. We're quilting, so we're going to have no back stitching on piecing our pieces together. My pieces are a little different length, but I'm at the end here, and this is what I was going to tell you about. It's called chain piecing. When you have a bunch of pieces that you've already cut out for your quilt, and you're ready to start sewing them all, and you know that these all need to be sewn together. So we're just going to slide this one right up under here and just keep going. There we go. This just is a more efficient way of sewing all of the pieces for your quilt. Is chaining them together. You're not cutting threads in between, you're not lifting the foot in between. Let's do one more real quick. Let me line up these fabrics. And it can be for long pieces, it can be for short pieces, squares and triangles, as long as it's a straight edge and you're using the 1/4 inch foot. It's great for stitching these chain piecing together. I've actually done this process when I did like one of those jelly roll rugs. It just made it go by so much faster, and I wasn't wasting so much thread in between. And then on the 9960, we do have the little thread cutter, the automatic thread cutter right there with the little scissors. So here's all of my pieces. Okay, so we've chain stitched our pieces together. All you have to do is take your scissors and clip them apart, and you can go to your iron and you can open it up and you can press your seam to the darker fabric side. I'm going to go to the darker fabric side so you don't see your seam allowance on the front side, okay? Let's see where we're at. Make sure I didn't miss any questions. When the camera's over there, I can't really see. Okay, good. So that is the 1/4 inch foot. Super straightforward. I'm going to show you real quick with the 1/4 inch foot how to turn that corner, because I kind of talked about it. It's really good to see it done. So let's go back to the machine And we'll get you right there. I've got my same settings and everything. I'm gonna lower my foot, drop my needle, and we're just gonna follow that same edge again. And as I get closer to the edge here, I wanna watch and I wanna make sure that my fabric is lined up with that red line. And it's pretty close. So I'm gonna lift my foot and leave my needle down. I'm gonna pivot my fabric, lower it back down, and now my fabric is in line with the right side of my foot. And I can just keep going. And I have a beautiful corner, squared off corner with a 1/4 inch seam on both sides. And then again, let's pick it up, shift it around. This time it's a little off because my fabric wasn't cut straight right there. But you get the idea. And we'll lift and pivot. I love how quiet this machine is too. It's so nice. And we're gonna cut our thread. So now I have my corners. Look how nice those look. So nice. Okay, so when we finished our project, where did my little sample square go? I don't know where he went, but I'll show you on this big one. Oh, here it is. I have stuff everywhere. Okay, so when we finish our square, our block, and we've turned up our edges, so our edges are gonna, that back piece is gonna fold in and turn into the top piece, okay? And we're gonna want to do some decorative stitch to kind of hold this top piece down and brings it all together. You can do a straight stitch here, you can do a little zigzag, whatever you want, but this is a great opportunity to play around with some of the decorative stitches because I feel like stitching is one of the things that adds so much character to quilting. So this decorative stitch is over here on this machine, and it may be in a different number for your machine, but we're gonna go find it here. So I'm gonna hit the select button and we're gonna kind of go through, and it's this one right here, which is number 19, and I'm gonna select it. I am gonna change my foot. So let me go back to the machine and we can change out the foot. Now to change out the foot on this machine and all of our Singer machines that we have, there's a little button right here on the back. And you just press it and it's just like drops it so easy. And now is when we're gonna put on our open toe foot that we talked about earlier. It goes on the same way as the other foot does. It just clips right into place. And get my thread behind my foot here. It's a little curly. And we're gonna do that decorative stitch. I'm just gonna demonstrate it here. I don't have a folded edge, but I want you guys to see how fun these are. I love sewing with these. Because this one is one where it moves the fabric forward and 2 steps and then back 1 step. So you don't really want to hold on to the fabric too much. You just want to kind of hold it in the corner and make sure it's going straight and hold that, you know, guide it a little, but you want to let it do its thing. If you're pulling on it at all, it will not do the stitch pretty because it does have a forward and backward motion. I'll pick up the pace here a little bit. And I do not have it set to the highest speed. This thing can sew pretty quickly. But it's nice that we have speed control on the computerized machines, or sewing speed. So here is that decorative stitch. It's like a little feather stitch. It's so cute. And that is the stitch I used. And I made sure that kind of like the center mark, like the center stitch, kind of hugged both sides of the edge fabric and the main part of the square, so you could see the stitch on both sides. You can do a thread that matches, you can do a thread that contrasts. I did the black so that you could see it on this side, but it really didn't show up much on the edge. So it's just kind of a fun way to decorate your project. and finish it off. So there we go. There we have it. Let's see what else we've got going on. My glasses are sliding down my face. I really didn't know what the lines were on that foot. So now you do. Isn't that nice to know? It really helps know where you need to stop sewing so you can pivot your fabric and keep sewing. It helps make those corners really, really nice. If you guys have any questions, I'm excited to see what you all create with our monthly project, which I put on the floor. So I hope you guys take the time to do this. This is a very fast project. It's much faster than the project last month. Have fun with it. This is the project for scrap fabric, so pull that bin out. It does not have to match. It can be whatever you want it to be. You can choose to put the ribbons on there if you want or not. You can make it any size you want. You can make it small. You can make it big. I just did a little small piece here just to kind of demonstrate for something else, but you can make it really big too. It's totally up to you. I hope this inspires you guys to try something new, to explore some different feet. I hope you feel comfortable now with the 1/4 inch piecing foot so that you feel like you can go conquer this project. What was the name of the footer, please? So this foot right here is the 1/4 inch piecing foot. And this foot right here is the open toe foot. This is for your decorative stitches. This is for your 1/4 inch seam allowances and quilting, okay? Oh, I'm so glad it helped you. Awesome. So you're gonna go make the project. It's linked in our bio. It's linked in our last post about it. You'll see a picture. You can also find previous month's projects there as well, but go to our website, get the project, download the PDF, print it out or use it on your computer or your phone, save it, and have fun with it. And when you're done, please post a picture of what you made and the fabrics you chose and how you chose to make it your own. And use hashtag Singer Sewing. We want to see those finished projects. We want everybody to be able to see those finished projects. It just inspires us to keep making these fun projects for you guys. Fun tutorial. Thank you. Oh, thanks, guys. If you guys ever have questions about any of our feet, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always here to help you have successful sewing. All right, guys, until next month and the next second Tuesday of the month, I will see you then. But have a good one. Bye. Thanks.